There we go. Hello. Welcome back to another Mental Health Monday here on Even Tacos Fall Apart. I am really excited for this conversation. I think that it's going to be a very good conversation. We're going to be talking with Amy Taylor tonight. She is here and joining me, and I'll tell you a little bit about Amy here in just a minute, but we do have a question queue open. If you are wanting to ask anything about the topic tonight, feel free to pop it into the question queue via Twitch. Type !Q. Follow that with your question. That'll get it into the queue. And then if you're here on YouTube, just put it into the chat, and I'll keep a closer eye on YouTube than I do on Twitch, because it won't put it into its own queue for me. But I'll get that figured out someday. But we are here tonight. Our topic tonight is going to be sex work and mental health. And I'm very excited to talk about this. I think it's going to be a really good conversation. And let me introduce you to Amy. Amy, thank you so much for being here with us today. I appreciate you taking the time.
So nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
There we go. Hello. Welcome back to another Mental Health Monday here on Even Tacos. I've got one thing. See there, I knew I was forgetting something. All right, that's good. Okay. Thank you for joining. Thank you everybody for being here. I see you in chat. Thank you guys. I'll get to that question here in just a minute. But before we start in with the questions, Amy Taylor is an MBA, Mensa member, commercially licensed pilot who's flown cargo, charter, and been a flight instructor. She has been featured on and in Elle, Sports Illustrated, GQ, FHM, Maxim, Muscle and Fitness, Men's Health, Women's Fitness, and even Playboy. Now in her 40s, she's just getting started. When she's not in the skies or in front of a camera, you can find her staying fit, having fun with family and friends, and generally just enjoying life in Manhattan or wherever life takes her. I do have some social connections if you're looking to connect with Amy on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you want to connect. I'll pop those into the chat, and you can go connect with her, give her a follow. All of those engagement things, y'all know I always say, like, anything you do to click and follow and subscribe, all of those are what helps everybody. So we're going to get into the conversation tonight, and I'll go ahead and start with this question in the chat, which comes from Bite Mark, and that is, Amy, what is your favorite poem?
Oh, that's such a great question. Thank you. I mean, I don't have any memorized. I'm not that good, but I mean, like everybody, it's kind of cliche. I think Rumi's really beautiful. I think I wish I could read it in its original language, but even translated to English, I think some of it's so deep, and it's because of the economy of words.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd probably say if I'm looking to feel something, I'd go for Rumi first, and then see where that took me online.
I mean, that's a good way to start, especially with poetry, because everything's always those suggestions over on the side, wherever you're looking at things, and you can really kind of go down a rabbit hole. But Rumi's a great one. And there's such a bulk of content also that you can find online, and just go through and scroll through and read through and enjoy. No memorization needed. Yep, absolutely. Well, can you share a little bit about your background and how you became involved in sex work?
Yeah, so I've certainly had a twisty road in my 47 years. I'll be 48 at the end of this year, and man, it's been fun. But the reason maybe I've done so many different things, because unlike most people, I didn't get married and have kids. So that kind of freed up a lot of time, and I didn't want to waste it. So I first found out about sex work when I was in undergrad at Berkeley. I went to Berkeley in the end of the 90s. And a sorority sister of mine was doing that. And she, I guess, trusted me enough to tell me, which was an honor. And so perhaps my first impression of it was of the very high end, privileged end, which it turns out is not the norm. It is for sure a problematic industry. I don't recommend anybody do it, even if you survive it, as I have, at least as of today. It's too hard. I'd do something else. People, please do something else. If I could, I'm trying
The
to
risk
make
is too high. Yep.
I'm trying to make the best of what life dealt me and all the twists and turns, but I cannot recommend it. But she told me, she worked for this agency in San Francisco, and the .com thing was really booming in 99. And she told me I just go out to dinner and some dates and come home with a few $1,000, and you're a broke young college student. I was like, what? Like, I'm doing the same thing for free. Like, so I guess I sort of, it was very rose-colored glasses through which I saw it at first. But I had this rich boyfriend. I think I was young and kind of pretty, and candy striped in a hospital, and a guy who was finishing med school promptly wanted to date me. Regular young frat boys that I knew my own age couldn't compete. He was 10 years older, and he was like, yeah, let's go to the opera or go to Tahiti for a week. And the other guy could barely take me out to dinner. I mean, who would you choose? So, like a lot of girls that were kind of pretty at 19, 20, 21, I kind of got poached by a guy who was a little bit older and rich, and it was fun. I'll be honest. He was only 10 years older. He wasn't like creepy old. And it was better. He could make life more fun. I'm sorry, it was true. So I didn't do sex work because I had this rich boyfriend who was making life easier for me when I was super broke. Because he then got out of med school. He was a doctor making quite a bit of money, and I was a student making, negative money. So we kept dating. I didn't get into any graduate schools that I wanted to go to in Northern California. Didn't get into Berkeley to stay. They only keep the rock stars. Didn't get into Stanford. Got into school in Los Angeles. We decided we were together. I'd go down there. He'd fund it. I'd do a master's. A couple years later, I'd come back. We'd get married, settle down. He wanted kids. He was getting older. I was kind of staring down the barrel of my whole life, and I agreed to it. And then we started fighting. Long distance was tough on us. We eventually broke up, and he yanked the financial rug out from under me. So now I'm in grad school. He took away my car, and I'm living in LA, which is pretty impossible to live in LA with no car. I have no money because I'm in school, and he's now no longer going to pay for school. What should I have done? Probably should have dropped out of school, somehow found a minimum wage job, lived somewhere I could have taken the train until I could have bought a car. My parents were in no position to help me financially.
Yeah.
Or something I guess I should have done, or begged him to still be with me, which I did not work. But I suddenly had a massive financial need and heartbreak. Yeah. And I thought of what my old sorority sister had told me. And so I decided to try to do that, and looked for an agency like she'd worked for, couldn't find one. The one I found, nobody would hire me. They hired like actresses and models, and I wasn't one. One lady told me, she's like, you're super smart and you're young and your guys all love you. You're kind of the girl next door. You should just do this on your own. I was like, I don't know how to do that. And she's like, oh, it's the internet. And she pointed me to a couple websites. And I mean, honestly, it wasn't rocket science. I mean, I got through Berkeley in science and did a graduate school without even trying, did my MBA without even trying. So like, it's not that hard. And immediately, I mean, my first couple clients I saw for many, many years and had a great time, and the rest was history. It was just dating. It actually got pretty boring pretty quick.
Yeah.
Just dating.
It's like hearing you kind of talk about that and saying like, oh, I should have done this and I should have done that. It's like, I mean, there's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different ways that life can go, and you just don't know until you're there. And once you're there, you're faced with these choices, and you make them based on the information you have at the time and based on your own life experiences until then. So I feel like you can should all over yourself, sure. But
the couple of bad things that happened, you don't see them coming when you're very young and bold and dumb. And 99% of it was very good. It was literally just dating. I was able to finish grad school, stay independent. I didn't have to marry a man I didn't love. I didn't have to be, like most women of all generations before us, trapped financially or otherwise. Not all, of course. Some men are great. Don't at me, internet. But a lot of it enabled a very nice life. And then some really bad things happened. And of course, those were unanticipated, as horrific things always are.
Right.
And then, some of them, I got outed, I got arrested, I had a stalker, I had to put somebody in prison. A bunch of shit happened over the years. Some of that took away my privacy, outed me to everyone I loved, prevented me from certain housing and job options forever. And what that all does is kind of makes you stay in it, because you lose your other opportunities. And every time you try for other opportunities, people find out that you did sex work. You are then shut out of the regular world, and what's left for you, the income opportunities and the world that you did know. Right. So it's funny how people want you to quit, and then they make it impossible for you to do so because you are forever branded.
Yeah.
Some of my colleagues, hundreds of them, are retired and they're just fine, but they never got outed and they all lie. Some of them have very big jobs. They're doing very well in life, and I'm happy for them, but they got lucky. And they have to lie. And a lot of them, now that it's far in the past for many of them, they're okay. But some of them, for the first decade or so, lived in terror of getting outed. Some did, got outed, and it was terrible for their spouse or their kids or whoever. Right. So it's complicated. I ended up staying in it and then like literally just saw the same people for over a decade and then semi-retired. And I'm happy to be a financially independent old lady with a little dog. Honestly, that's fine by me. It's such a good time. But it does bring a lot of good and a lot of bad. And that's, I guess I wanted an interesting life. I'm not sure this is the way I wanted it, but you make lemonade out of what has happened. I think you have to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've got a comment in the chat that says, I feel like long distance is hard on almost everyone. That is very true. I mean, long distance is going to put a strain, and it's at a minimum going to really kind of test you a little bit and see how that relationship is. But yeah, that's hard on everyone for sure. It sucks that he was just like, and you're done. Like taking away the car, that's kind of a shitty move. But
I mean, when you are slightly over a decade younger and you are utterly financially independent. I mean, I was going to basically become my mother. My mother's younger than my father, financially dependent on him. Their marriages lasted, but it was often not easy for her. Yeah. And it was a different generation. Now he's quite nice, but there were some times when they were younger that she had to put up with a lot.
Right.
As so many of our grandmothers did. If you talk to old women, you'll see what it used to be like. And I was going to go down that same road. And I'm not entirely sad that I didn't. I don't think the way I did it was the best choice. But he was very controlling, but also very generous. But that's how it is, right? Mm-hmm. If you choose to marry a much older, much wealthier guy, you earn every penny.
Yeah. Yep. Now, you've also done a lot of other things. So you worked as a model, a pilot, you're a Mensa member. How have those experiences influenced your perspective on life and work in general?
Oh, that's so great. I mean, yeah. So yeah, people love to talk about the sex work thing. It's actually very much part-time. Mensa was just something I got in. So you have to qualify, you have to be top I think it's 2 standard deviations away from the mean in IQ on a qualified IQ test. And there's a whole litany of ones they accept. I got in based on my general and subject GREs, the graduate record exam. My subject was biology and the general. And so I think I was just really good at taking tests. My dad's a professor. Filling in bubbles is really easy for me. I am a moron at a lot of things, but not school. And I think it's just in the blood. I'm a nerdy academic, and that part of life is easy for me. I probably should have become a professor. My father still says I should.
It's maybe not too late.
But so Mensa doesn't get you anything except I guess I'm really good at puzzles and Sudoku. Yay.
I mean,
but it does. I have a fast brain. I think fast. I think that's why I like Manhattan, New York. I operate fast. That annoys a lot of people. Honestly, I don't care. In my town, it's pretty normal. And having this RAM processing speed is mostly an asset. I can solve problems pretty fast, but sometimes it's a liability. Like sometimes people don't keep up and I get frustrated.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I can think 10 steps ahead and I'm wrong, right? I'm tracking the wrong thought path, but I'm overly confident because of this Mensa thing. I'm like, I'm smart. I know everything. And you have to contain your own ego because just because you're good at Sudoku doesn't mean you're good at everything.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, it having a good fast brain allowed me to do a lot of things. I was decent looking. Modeling came at me at 14. I explored that part-time, all the while doing other stuff, but it was available to me. Had a conventionally nicely shaped body. It was able to monetize that. It helped pay for school. I don't think it's particularly interesting, but it has taught me something about style and beauty. It has taught me the unfortunate lesson of how important beauty is to other people.
Yeah.
People really like beautiful people. And I hate that I was paid so much more and I was able to financially survive much more off my beauty than I ever was off of like the biology skills I got in my undergraduate degree at Berkeley with honors. I was really proud of that. Or like the aviation tickets I've gotten. You can see my airman certificates on Google. FAA is public. Well, it's under my legal name, but I'm proud of those things, and they never paid the bills like being hot did.
Right.
And I sort of hate that, but I'm not going to change the world. People like beauty. And we like to look at beautiful things. So I did learn a lot from sets and creative people about, clothes and jewelry and hair and makeup. And I'll never find that stuff very interesting. I'm a geeky science type, but I'm glad that I know how to clean up, because there is so much conferred benefit if you're attractive. And again, I wish the world wasn't that way, but it is.
Yeah.
I think the pilot thing I like the most. Aviation wasn't going to ever get me rich. It's pretty much a break even at this point, but it teaches you kind of an efficiency and an economy of behavior and of words and of actions that is useful in life. There's no nonsense in the cockpit, and even in ground school or in the sim. You're there to get the job done, and there's no extra fluff needed. And I think there are places in life in which that's really nice, that there's just no time for nonsense. And so I think there's maybe not enough emotion and fluff in aviation, but combined with the other aspects of my life, I think it offsets things well.
Yeah. It's definitely good to have this mix of perspectives, right? And just be able to say, like, maybe that could use a little more, and maybe this could use a little less. And you can control what you can control. You can't control everything, but knowing a little of this and a little of that's really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, left brain, right brain, right? I mean, the creative side of the world, I think the thing I still love about modeling when I shoot is to be around creatives, because I don't have that ability or talent. I love to see, I don't understand how they see colors and light the way that I just don't see it. And similarly, pilots are so regimented and rigorous, and especially the people who went to I went to civilian flight school in Mesa, Arizona. I'm not military trained. The military guys and girls, they're better. We all go through indoc the same. We all meet with the DPE from the FAA. We all got to pass the same check rides. But the military people, they're better. And I think being around those types, which are so the opposite of the creatives, I think is a pleasure. So the world needs all of us. I like the diversity of the world. There's a reason I live in downtown New York. I think all of our mental frameworks and our skills and talents make up this quilt, that we're all equally valuable. We're just different, and the difference is the beauty.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So I work in architecture, engineering, construction. I put together proposals for a living. I work with a lot of military folks, and I worked with this one guy, and he was from the Air Force. He retired out of the Air Force, came to work for us, and we were working on this proposal together. And I was like, okay, what do you think of this layout? What do you think of these colors? And he was like, I don't care. That's your job. You decide. You're good at that. I'm not. You do it. And I was just like, great. We're going with what I already put together then. And it's nice, first of all, to recognize like what you're good at and what you're not good at. And then to kind of verbalize it also and say, I don't know. You do that. You're the creative one. You figure that out, not me. But
it's great that he knew.
Yeah. It takes a lot of awareness. And I mean, not everyone has that awareness. He definitely did. He was great to work with. But it was just one of those things. It was just like so nice to have someone say, I have an opinion. It's not as good as yours. So you do your thing and I'm going to do my part over here.
Humble of him. I mean,
yeah.
I think I'm a bit of a seeker. I wish I could live 10 lifetimes and learn it all, but I can't, right? Even sex work has allowed me to meet people that are very different from me. And sometimes I really can't understand their choices and how they live, but I still think it's interesting. Mm-hmm. And I bet you it's mutual, and that's fine. I think, and when you can be humble and realize that others' talents, skills, viewpoints are just as valuable as your own, it behooves us to communicate with people that are different from us. Because I think if you stick around only people that are just like you don't learn. And that's no fun. Oh, hi, baby.
Yeah. I know. He woke up. Usually he naps just the whole time, but he woke up a little bit. So I got to pet him.
I know. Yeah, I mean, and this guy, this engineer type, it's great that he knew. I know a friend of mine she's a physician, and she says her least favorite patients are engineers because they come in with too much knowledge. They want to read everything. And she's like, I like the farmers who are just like, you tell me what to do.
Yeah. Yep. That does not surprise me at all, because it's true. They'll come with facts that they've already looked up. They've already spoken to people if they know someone. It's all of it. It's just like they got the list.
I'm curious about what makes people tick. I mean, I think that's what made me a great companion was that I'm a good hang and I'm interested in people. And I don't really need to agree with them to be interested in them.
Yeah.
Now, the people that are the closest to me, my family, those who I really love, my core, they're probably fairly similar, obviously, but I don't need to see the world in the same light to be interested in somebody and even to have great respect for them. If they're not harming me, then I don't need them. I seek to understand rather than to change or convince.
Yeah.
But I do expect the same from them. I don't like being
Yes.
told what to do by anybody. That's probably why my life ended up this
That's
way.
fair. That's fair. I like this comment in the chat. Bite Mark says this is such a fascinating combination of life experiences. I imagine it really helps form a full picture of yourself and who you are. I feel like so many people wander through life just doing the next thing and not learning anything about themselves. Do you think that because you've done so many things, it really gave yourself a better sense of self?
I mean, I hope so. I think yourself can change. I think I'm going to be a different person as a little old lady in my 70s than I am now. I'm certainly different now than I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Um, I can't drink more than 2 drinks without a bad hangover. That sucks about being in my late 40s. But I mean, I don't know how this the chat your life went, person in the chat, but part of my life was by my own engineering. I have been able to do a handful of things that I really dreamt of. I wanted to fly planes when I was a baby. My parents told me I was obsessed with, and my grandfather was an aviator, so it's probably in the blood. And I am an eternal student. That's, as I said, also in the blood. But then there have been things that have happened to me and blindsided me, and I didn't see coming. Some of them good, some of them very bad. And then I did have to pivot and navigate not having a lot of choice or control and not having a strong sense of self when things were happening that were threatening to shake my very foundation, either my health or my freedom or my life. And when that happens, as it does to a lot of us here and there, and you're trying to get through something, month by month or day by day, I don't think at those moments I've really had some strong sense of self. I think sometimes I've just been trying to get through it. So I wouldn't be so proud to say that I've always known what I was doing. I've sometimes very much known what I'm doing, and sometimes been like surfing a very unsteady surfboard and just trying not to drown.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting that feeling of like, I don't know, but here I am.
I mean, dude, just going like, I guess if I survive this, I'll be. And every time when you do survive these tough things that hit us all, you do always come out stronger and better. It's super not fun.
Yeah.
The life of ease is what we all want, but that's impossible. It doesn't exist, and it actually wouldn't be good for us. But in that sandpaper time where you're just being rubbed raw by life and going, "What the f- is this?"
Yes.
At those times, I don't think I knew what in the heck I was doing or who I was or if I had made every mistake or um and those things have only hit a few times in life. It'd be great if they were over, but I'm only in my late 40s, so I'll probably have speed bumps again.
Yeah. I mean,
We
it feels
probably
like
all will.
you have at least, one or two a decade, right? Sometimes more, sometimes less.
I think you do get better at it every time, if
Yeah.
for no other reason than you're like, I've done some hards before. I
Exactly.
can probably do this thing. It's like fitness, or your kid throws a tantrum for the first time, you're like, I don't know what to do. And the 100th time, you're like, oh, I've been here, right?
Yeah. Yep.
um, so yeah, I have had the good fortune. I hope we all have a strong sense of self. I think in the quiet of night, we all know who we are and what we want. The tough thing is listening to it as opposed to what other people tell us we should do and be, or other people tell us we can't do or be because
Yeah.
they don't want us to have the audacity to dream, or they want us to like ourselves less because it somehow makes them feel better. I do encounter a lot of people on the internet who for some reason think I need to be humbled, which is very odd because that presumes that I think I'm great, which I don't. They don't even know me. I don't think I'm that great. But there is this phenomenon where some people would like you to like yourself less online. And to them, I say I do have a strong enough sense of self that whatever nonsense you're going to say to me isn't going to change what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now you talked
That's
about
just the internet.
being Oh, it is. I mean, it is. Listen, everybody's got opinions when they're behind a keyboard and you can't see them. They wouldn't
They
be
would
the
like
same
to tell
to
you
your
about.
face. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
Right? You wouldn't believe how nice New Yorkers are because we're all walking around and it's our faces. So people don't act like that here.
Now, you mentioned being semi-retired. So when you're not working, what do you enjoy doing? What activities or hobbies kind of help you relax and unwind?
Oh, well, I just got back last night from California. I spent the week with my family for the 4th. And that's always nice. You know, when you go back to your childhood home, you like regress back to who you were. Then you're laying on the floor watching TV, and your parents like won't let you even pay for coffee because they forever think you're their kid.
Yep.
And it's these people who've known me for 47 years, and they know me for all the nonsense that has happened to all of us. So that's a distinct pleasure. I go home to California a lot because I no longer live there. I'll probably live there again in a few years. My parents are aging. It could be soon. If something happened, I could pick up and move back
Go
next
right
week.
now.
We'll see
Yeah.
how that goes. I have a sister. We're on board with that, and we'll address that plan as it materializes in the coming decades. I hope it's as long as possible. We'll see.
Of course.
And then I go to Florida to see a good friend. I trip around. I haven't gone anywhere international in a year, which is like the first time in a while. But that's because during COVID for 4 years, I like literally nonstop left the country. It was cheap and nobody was doing it, so we did all the nose tests and masking, and we just left. So, and that's my ex. Then we promptly broke up. It's weird. We like overdid it and then fell apart. So I think a lot of couples, you either found out it was the right person for you or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm not itching to go somewhere far quite yet, but I think probably in the next year or so I'll do something more exotic and leave again. We'll see. But then generally I like fitness. I like to scuba dive. I like to golf. There's no course here on Manhattan, obviously, but there's a range near Chelsea. And then there's some courses in New Jersey that are quite pretty. Like my neighbors and I will go out. I like marksmanship, although Manhattan's not a gun place, but we do have a couple gun ranges where you can shoot with 22s. Mm-hmm. You have to go to New Jersey to shoot more serious stuff. And I'm no longer a gun owner here. I did have one. I owned one in California, but I gave it up when I moved here. So I don't go shooting right now as much as I'd like to, but I used to go quite a bit, and maybe I will again when I live elsewhere. And then aviation. I fly when I can. So
yeah.
In the winter, I ski, but the East Coast skiing is like ice sheets. So it's unless I can fly to Colorado or Utah or Switzerland, I don't ski much because I don't really like the Killington like pure ice mountains here.
Yeah, that's fair. You need some of the powder. It'd be nice,
right? Like the best is Utah and Colorado, but
I haven't skied in Utah. I've skied in Colorado, but not Utah.
Where do you go?
Oh, I haven't been in many years, but we used to go to Colorado, New Mexico. Last time I went was probably 10 years ago, and that would have been to New Mexico. Yeah.
House and Angel Fire and stuff. And that's not too, the middle of the country is better mountain, better snow for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't even like Air cement in California very much. It's like slushy and kind of gross.
That's no good.
I keep wanting to learn to snowboard. I tried it for one day in Banff in Jasper National Park in Canada. And oh my God, I suck so bad. I spent the whole day on my ass.
You're either on your ass or on your knees. I mean, like that's the thing they tell you. It's you'll be bruised for sure. But once you get it, it's great.
That's what. So my sister switched. Mm-hmm. She doesn't ski anymore. She says once it clicks, it's more fun.
Yes, I agree. I've skied and I've snowboarded. I prefer snowboarding, although they used to not allow snowboarding in Taos. So if you went to Taos, you couldn't snowboard. You could only ski. I'm sure they've changed it by now, or maybe not. Who knows?
They're not going to make any money.
Well,
it's the future. How any money?
There's plenty, but yeah, I mean, snowboarding to me, I don't know what it is. I enjoy it much more than I enjoy skiing, and I love skiing. Like it's fun. But snowboarding is just a lot of fun. But you have to get, there is a period of you're just going to fall a whole bunch. You're going to wind up with a bunch of bruises, and you're going to wind up with a bunch of bruises. Like that, you only fall in the 2 spots, and you're going to be bruised for a while. Yep.
Everybody says, you got to stick with it. How long did it take you to where it at least got kind of fun?
It was a couple of seasons, and this was when we were going, every year. So it's a couple of seasons of a week going, not a season of going the whole season. Like a week now and then a week the next year. And by the end of the second week the next year, I was really digging it. I was really enjoying it. So
That's not too bad. I mean, a
Yeah.
couple, like 2 or 3 weeks or so.
Yep.
It's not terrible.
Yeah, you could probably get that in a
Because
season if you're going consistently, for sure.
skiing, I think, takes longer to get good at. Skiing's
Yeah.
the poles and the two skis, it's harder.
Mhm.
The learning curve's rough. I
Yeah.
learned as a kid, so I was lucky. But yeah, I know everybody switches, which must mean that it's better, but I gotta give it
It's
a chance.
fun. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. I have a blast with it. Well, I mean, just like
Yeah.
skiing, if one ski gets off, then your whole path
Oh,
is screwed.
the sideways one, like, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Last year, I went down a slope at Beaver Creek, and I didn't know there was like one of these green runs that crosses in the middle. I'd never been down this slope before, so I was just going really fast. I hit this green run and just launched, and it was a complete yard sale, like goggles and pole and skis. I mean, everything went everywhere, and I slid down on my face. I somehow flipped over on my stomach and then kept
no.
sliding. Woke up the next morning, and my lip, it was like this. Like,
Oh.
it was slightly swollen. It was like I got way too much filler only in one. And it's a good look for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, man. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I don't like about snowboarding. You're always falling in the same two spots. At least with skis, it's different bruises than just the same two, just getting bigger and bigger. It's not, you're not incorrect, but I have only ever gone so far off the side of the mountain that I had to have help getting back on skis. So
how? How did that happen?
I was a kid and I was going too fast and my parents weren't keeping up. Not that they were trying to keep up necessarily, but I was like little speed demon. And I wound up going too fast, kind of similar. I wound up just going too fast. And then all of a sudden I hit a spot where there was no room for error. And I went so far down into the trees, off the path, into the trees, wound up with like one leg, one ski way over here behind one tree, another ski over here behind another tree, and no poles anywhere. Couldn't figure it out. And so I'm like yelling, help, help, help. And then this guy is like looking down over the side and he's like, what? And my mom said that she was coming around the corner and she saw the guy looking down and she's like, oh shit. Like she just knew that was my child.
I mean, I'm glad you were okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, kids are resilient, right? I just bounced.
Dude, we
just got up and
didn't wear helmets when we were young in
No,
California.
not at all.
Now, like, everybody has safety gear, but that was crazy. We just went out there like willy-nilly with nothing, like
Yeah.
psychos. Like,
Yeah.
dude, I mean, it's amazing I'm alive, but yeah, I do enjoy it, and I try not to like abuse myself too much because I don't
Yeah.
want to get injured. But knock wood, I've never had a serious ski injury yet. I hope I never do.
Good.
But
Yeah,
I keep
hopefully
it.
you never
keep it-
will. Hopefully,
Yeah,
hopefully you
I
never
don't do
will.
crazy stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got a little sidetracked. We're gonna get back on track.
Skiing stories.
I get sidetracked. Look. I'm the
That's
same.
great.
Stories are life. What's
Did the
what's
guy
life
fish
without
you
the
out,
stories?
or did you have to fish out and find all your stuff?
It took the guy and it took my mom as well. Both of them had to like come sidestep down the mountain, get to me, and help me get all the way back up because it was so steep and so like obviously not groomed or anything. So just yeah.
You step in
So
it,
nice.
you just keep going.
Yes. Yeah.
Like right
Yeah.
when you're in powder, there's no bottom.
Yep.
You have to like do snow angels to try to get out,
Yes.
right? It's a whole
Yep.
vibe.
It was crazy. All right, well, we've got another question in the chat, and 488 would like to know what could be improved in your local community to improve the collective mental health.
I mean, in my community, are you talking about sex workers? Are you talking about New York City? Are you talking about dog moms?
I'm gonna
I mean-
assume that he's talking about sex work, but it could be New York City. If you got a suggestion there, we could go there too.
There's a lot in all those communities. I mean, you know, I when people have misconceptions, which they do, and I don't entirely fault them for that because the vacuum, we are largely closeted. So people think they don't know a sex worker. I promise you, you all do in your yoga class at Whole Foods, Pilates. Like, I promise you, you all know a sex worker. And a lot of you probably love one and you just don't know. The CDC estimates it's about 1 million women and plus men. It's not just women. But they estimate 1 million women in the U.S. at any given time. That's 1 out of every 125 women. So that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Including like online OnlyFans, sex work, dominatrixes, escorts, strippers, what I miss. Anyway, all forms of sex work. There's phone sex, I guess, if anybody's still doing that. I do try to dispel myths, and if they want to talk, it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, but sometimes they have questions, and I do try to build. And since I got outed, I'm one of the few that will ever talk to the public because I got nothing to lose. I got outed. I mean, it is what it is.
What else is there?
My
Right.
family. My family still loves me, even though they worry, and I'm lucky that they love me. That's a grace I don't deserve and I can't repay. But a lot of people don't get that deal. A lot of sex workers get disowned by their family, and that contributes to mental health struggles and drug abuse. And the holidays are very hard for a lot of sex workers. So if you know and love one, be nice to them on the holidays, because a lot of us are very lonely on those during those times. We've been rejected by our families, our lifestyle choices. And I think what could be done is, it's again hard because we're closeted, but I would argue they should read more and watch more, and if they can meet one. That's kind of hard again with the closeting, but we get told we don't know our own minds by people who smugly assume they know better for us what we should do than we do, which is very weird. And we're fighting for our rights, and we're going to get them. Watch, it's happening everywhere. New Zealand, a woman was just able to sue a client in small claims who didn't pay her, and she won.
Nice.
And in Belgium, they've been able to sort of unionize and fight for rights. And you don't have to like sex work to acknowledge that we're human beings worthy of respect and rights. I don't always like sex work, and I know the industry. It's full of problems, just like every industry. But I think in general, what people stop not being so ridiculous about sex in general would be nice. Not just sex work, but I understand a lot of people, it's more exciting if it's transgressive and sinful, and if they wrap it up and all that. It's because it's really just a bodily function everyone's doing. It's not that big of a deal. It's nicer if it's wrapped up in love and romance. Sometimes it's not, and that's okay too. But I'd like to see people grow up a little about sex. I'd like us to be able to be more honest with mental health workers without losing our health insurance, without having to closet ourselves to not get our housing and our banking and our access to healthcare canceled, because that's what happens. So then we have to lie. We can't tell the truth because we get hated. And then if we lie, the world lies about us, and we can't even defend ourselves. So we get trapped. Legislators and those in power won't even listen to us or take us seriously. They just dismiss us as a bunch of crazy bitches. And so we struggle to fight with our rights. I think clients are in a very difficult position where they would like to see us less harm, but they can't speak up for us for obvious reasons. They would lose their happy, normal lives, right? Mm-hmm. So they consume the products of our labor, but then they can't stand up for us. And perhaps they shouldn't be expected to, any more than you should stand up for the rights of that salmon whose fillet you ate on your sandwich today. You don't know if that animal had a good life or not. You're just the consumer. And being a conscious consumer on everything you buy is probably not possible. But where it is possible, you could, stand up for, if you watch porn or go to strip clubs or ever use OnlyFans or have ever gone to a peep show, phone sex, and hired an escort, it would be okay to gently stand up and say that they're human beings and that it's not a throwaway person, and a dead hooker is not a funny joke. Yeah. You could start there by just saying that they're people, because I think that the trope of that they're throwaway people who are better off dead, even while everyone is consuming the products of sex work labor, is pretty gross, right? Because like it or not, these are people doing labor that almost everyone is consuming for their enjoyment. So I think those small steps, just acknowledging that they're humans, would help. I mean, we were specifically excluded from PPP money during COVID, literally just work of a prurient nature, which was us, sex work. No loans for us. Everybody else could, right? Didn't matter if you had a shady business, as long as you weren't sexy. And I think, my alma mater's motto, UC Berkeley's motto, is fiat lux. And I think I internalized that, where it means shine a light. And I really believe that lying causes a lot of mental health problems, and that truth, the light of truth, does a lot. It's a disinfectant. And I'm not saying you run down the street and shout, "I love hookers," because yeah, I would love to, but you probably can't do that because there's kids out there. But you can you can say that you read a book or saw a podcast or that you saw that you know me now. You could say that they're human beings and that even if the business is full of problems, that these are people that we have to consider because there's millions of us.
Yeah.
Okay. We could just start there and that would do a lot.
Well, and I mean, business done in the dark also is not going to be protected in any way. Like that's one of those things. If you keep everything illegal and you don't talk about it and you sweep it under the rug and you exclude a whole bunch of
Yeah.
people, it's never it's never going to be easy to say this is going to get better. This is going to be made right. And especially with
Most forms
the mental health side of things also. Um,
most forms of sex work are 100% legal. There's a few forms that are still criminalized in some of the US. Most forms are 100% legal in the US, and almost all the first world has decriminalized or legalized all forms of it. Even the National Organization of Women advises for the decrim of outright in-person intercourse having sex work, like prostitution. They advocate for. So uh, everybody knows that we can't criminalize our way out of this.
Yeah.
It's not being driven by the desire to punish and spite for things you don't like has never worked and never will. And again, no one's saying we want like a brothel at your kid's school. No one is saying that. That's never been the case and never will. And no one's saying we do utter lawless, permissive, nobody's doing that either. But it turns out harm reduction strategies work well because one of the things that happens when you take away the transgressive nature of things, one of the things it does is takes away some of the thrill of it and people calm down about it.
Yep.
Netherlands are a great example of that with drug abuse. The drugs are legal and still nobody does them because they got to get up in the morning and go to work and take care of their kids. And it turns out that we know from the war on drugs, it didn't work, right? So this strategy of criminalizing away behaviors that we sort of find problematic, we're smart. We're a smart species. Let's think of better ways, right? We can look to New Zealand. We can look to the Sanagochi project in Calcutta, where they decided to have sex workers work with the police instead of being arrested by them. And they've rescued like 1,200 trafficking victims in like a few years. The HIV rate has gone down every single year. They're getting results that America doesn't get, spending hundreds of millions of dollars on police stuff. And they did it by enabling trust, by saying to sex workers, the most vulnerable population, you can come talk to us about the biggest predators in your business, the traffickers, the ones kidnapping underage women to sell them. If we're not going to arrest you if you talk to us, because guess what happens when you criminalize in-person sex work? It will not come and talk to people about who the real bad actors are, so you don't find them. America did FOSTA SESTA and then said, we're now not finding the traffickers. Yeah, you didn't find them because you made it even more illegal, and now nobody will talk to you. And you haven't disappeared anything. Talk to anybody in Koreatown in LA or in the senorita bars in Houston. There's more than ever, and you just now don't get any data on it because you thought being tough on it would get rid of it. It didn't at all. It shoved it underground, and it's flourishing, my friends.
Yep.
So, if this is our only plan to deal with things we don't like, is just throwing the criminal justice system at it, then we're just dumb and we're never going to get anywhere. And again, the alternative to that is not just lawlessness and chaos. Nobody's saying that. That's not actually what happens in countries that have smarter strategies. Australia, most of Europe, a lot of Latin America. It's not what you see, right? So there are things besides sicking the cops on everything you don't like and just being utterly permissive. Again, we were talking before we hit record about the binary nature of Americans. They can only count to 2.
Yep.
There's more than 2, folks.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we were also talking before we started recording, we were also talking a little bit about therapists and mental health and how that kind of, there's multiple huge issues with both sex workers who are seeking help from a therapist, and then also therapists who either find out that their client is a sex worker or, in some other way are trying to help. Can you talk about that a little bit, just some of the issues there?
Yeah, I mean, I think those of us who are lucky to have therapists, we've managed to find our therapists stay busy because it is very stressful to live in a stigmatized world, whether it's legal or illegal. It's stressful anyway. I mean, any stripper will tell you that her work's legal, but it's still stigmatized and difficult, and there's shady people in it, and people hate you, and it's and again, like I said, having to couch the truth at your gynecologist all the time because when they give you that look about having multiple partners, you always want to say to her, "Do you know exactly where your husband is right now, my friend? You may be exposed to multiple people too." Like, I had a married friend once tell me, she's like, "Oh, my husband cheated, and now I have to get an STD test, and I shouldn't have to." I'm like, everybody should always be getting STD tests. You don't own other people, and you don't know where they are. And if you value your own health, you should always be getting tested once every so often. Like, why wouldn't you? Um, but yeah, I mean, there are definite negative impacts to working in a stigmatized industry. It's stressful, and stress raises cortisol, and cortisol makes you sleep less well. And for sure, my therapist stays busy. Job security for her.
Yeah.
And then the companionship is a performative industry. You're an actress. And any actor will tell you when you sometimes spend your time portraying something that isn't entirely who you are. It's sort of, I call it putting Spanx on my personality. You are out to dinner with somebody who is maybe saying things that are politically abhorrent to you or sexist, but because this person, bought you a condo and you're broke and young or paid for grad school, you're just going to let them say this horrible stuff where you wouldn't if you were the rich one. You wouldn't even be there, right? So any performative behavior, anybody in customer service will tell you the same thing. Most married women for all of human history had to kind of perform for their husbands too. That adds stress, which is tough to off gas sometimes. It's like I told you, I walk a lot in nature, and yeah, the therapist, and then I think that me personally, I've certainly seen the same sort of struggles being a woman in aviation and a woman in science because I've clearly spent a lot of my time doing things that girls are told not to do. I think maybe I did that maybe that was the running theme, is that I was a scientist and then an aviator, and I just like to do things girls don't do, I guess. And those were very hard worlds too. The sexual harassment, the being told women can't do it, being hit on by bosses, coworkers. I quit a flight job once because it was an owner operator in his CJ1, and he thought he could fuck me for that job. Sorry, can I say F word? Sleep with me. Sorry.
Yes, it's fine. It's all good.
I can't. Okay, sorry.
Yes, it's all good.
So there have been mental health struggles in my other jobs too. But this particular, when you're in sex work, the deep sadness of the loss of relationships. I've had people that no longer speak to me. I moved once because neighbors made it so impossible. I wasn't working in my home or anything, but just they made life intolerable once they found out. Yeah. And moving was a hassle and expensive and annoying. I liked where I lived. People tend to attribute every problem you have to that. Like they don't believe that you're not some wild orgy having crackhead or whatever. They really just don't believe you. And I understand that's part of because you don't tell them at first. So you closet yourself, you're lying a little because to protect yourself. And then when they find out, they just think you're a liar. You have a credibility problem. And I guess that's fair. I would argue that people can omit private facts, and that doesn't automatically make them a complete liar. They're just trying to live, right? And I think we all do that to some degree. But certainly having to live in constant fear of being judged and hated is not great for your mental health. It's tiring.
Yeah.
I think all work is tiring. My sister's in politics, and she's just counting down till retirement. She hates it too. I don't know if anybody's perfectly happy at any job.
No, it would be my answer, but I don't know. I'm sure there are some people who are.
Well, I want somebody to pay me $1 million a year to play with my dog. I want that job.
That would be a great job. That would be a wonderful job. Absolutely. And I like my job. It's just, sometimes there's just some days that you're like, I would rather not be doing this.
this is work. That's why you get paid. If it was that
Yep.
fun, you'd do it for free.
Exactly.
Joke. But yeah, I think I wish we had access to more. There are some therapists willing to take us, but I think most of them are doing it by Zoom from Canada because that country is friendlier to our work. I wish more American therapists would be willing to help us without, like I said, also trying to fix us or convince us that everything is because of that. Maybe we'll get there, but it seems slow going.
Yeah. It's interesting that they're like doing Zoom stuff from Canada. I wouldn't have considered that, but that's actually a really, I feel like that could be a really good kind of solution to that, to say like, look, if you can't find one here who's going to be able to work with you, here's another option.
Yeah, well, they have a much better attitude to it. They have more rights there.
Yeah.
They have a better, the country has a better attitude toward women in that world. So, you know, it's not, things aren't perfect for them either, but they certainly, their country treats them a lot better than America does. So.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about kind of the performative aspect of things. Do you ever feel pressured to either portray a certain image in your work or do something that conflicts with your personal values? And how do you handle that kind of situation?
Yes. I hate doing my hair and makeup. I do it only when I have to. I don't care about makeup. I should learn. They have like everything's on YouTube. I do not care. I wear zero makeup. I do not do my hair unless I'm being paid or I'm at some event where it would be wildly inappropriate to show up barefaced and with dirty hair. I think I'm a teenage boy inside a Playboy model's body. Aging, getting old Playboy model, but I look very sexy. And I do like sex. I like men and romance. And I enjoy my femininity. But I view my femininity as kind of a cloak that I enjoy putting on, but I also very much enjoy taking off.
Yeah.
I want to stomp in the mud and look at tadpoles. And then once in a while, I want to go out for a sushi dinner in high heels with makeup on. But that's the most annoying part of my job is that I gotta be so girly. And because men are paying for femininity, they love it.
Right.
And I don't fault them for that. It's pretty. Women are beautiful and they smell good and they, you know, women, we got nice curves and it's great. But I'm not interested in doing that in my limited spare time.
Yeah.
That's not what I do with my time. And then, like I said earlier, I have served men who say abhorrently sexist and politically abhorrent and religiously abhorrent things to me, and I have usually, if I can get away with it, I say nothing, and I'm ashamed of myself. When I was young and broke, I often agreed. I was with somebody the night Obama won. We were in the Hermitage Hotel in Nashville, Tennessee. I don't even know if it's still there. It's a beautiful old hotel. And they had this sports bar in the basement. It's a gorgeous old bar. And Obama was winning, and this guy didn't like it. And he was throwing French fries at the screen, at this TV, this big screen TV in the bar. And he was screaming, "You Muslim, you N-word." And I was very broke, still finishing grad school, just became a companion, massive debt from school. He was loyal and wealthy and nice to me, easy. This is oil man, you know, rich oil guy. And I agreed. I lied and agreed with him. And of course, I had voted for Obama, of course. But I lied, and I'm not proud of that. And I never told him that I thought he was disgusting and racist. And I saw him for a couple more years, and then life changed, and we didn't. I hope he's well, I guess. But I was so ashamed of myself that I sat there and went, yeah, like F that guy. And it wasn't true. I didn't feel that way at all. I needed money. I was young and broke.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, I've done things like that. I've lied because I needed to pay my bills.
Yeah.
And I wish I had.
I
wish I had gone back later and. Yeah, because he wouldn't have cared if I had called him on it. He would have just fired me and gotten the next actress.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have, if I thought I could change hearts and minds, but I was just staff. I was just service staff. I don't think some of them thought about me any more than they thought about their pilot or their driver or their housekeeper. I was staff. I mean, you learn pretty quick in my business, even if you saw somebody for years, sometimes they'd email you 2 years later, and you'd realize they don't remember that they already knew you. A billionaire I used to see, I saw his plane on the tarmac, and I was teaching a student in Long Beach, California at the Signature there. We landed, and his plane was there. And this is a person I'd known for like a year. No, like two. Many, many times hanging out at many of his houses, many cities, New York, LA. I thought we knew each other. He had been to my home. I thought we really knew each other.
Wow.
I see his plane. I ask him, hey, what's up? He's like, who's this? Okay, you're busy, you're famous, you don't have my number anymore, fine. I reminded him, so-and-so, and he went, who? And I realized, like, no, and that's the deal. Like, and why would I expect to be important to somebody like that?
Yeah.
I was not. It was me who remembered him because he was super rich and famous and important, and I am not. That's okay. He was nice. He was never cruel or mean. I did my job. He paid. But I was quickly disabused of any thoughts of me being special. So sure, I just did my job. And conversely, I had men on their knees crying because they thought they were in love with me, and I did not feel the same. That's happened a few times too, and it's not that I forget them, but they are not as, I don't feel what they feel, and I don't even know if they really feel, but they think they do. So, relationships are sometimes one way, right? So maybe sometimes I was performing, and maybe sometimes they were. I had a client once tell me, he's like, you think you're acting when you're on a date with me? He's like, well, so am I. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, like I'm trying to be the best I can for you. I was like, oh God, that's sad, but thanks.
Yeah.
So maybe all dating is somewhat performative. It might be, I'm not sure.
I mean, I think to an extent, right? Like especially if you're trying to put on a good face or make sure that someone else is having a good time instead of enjoying it yourself or something like that.
I've seen that dozens of times in the past with clients where they were really overly concerned with whether I was having a good time. I don't know what to make of that. I've talked to other companions and they've said they experience exactly the same thing. So this seems very common. I've got to think it's just ego. Like they don't want to think that you hate being there.
They want to be your best. Maybe your best, client. Yeah, or like something like that.
Who wants to be the customer that the person hated, even if you're just buying a Subway sandwich? I guess you try to be nice, right? You don't want them to hate serving you. I think it might just be ego. It might be competitive with other men because I'm not rich, but they know that I serve very rich men. So it might just be envy of the indirect party there, which is weird because then it's not even about me, right? Or it's just acting. They're just in the moment. I'm not sure, but it's certainly common that they are also performing, and it's not real. Some of them, it's so performative that they literally detach from it and go back home to their families, and it's like it didn't happen. Which is, I cannot relate to that. I think that's maybe something men can do more than women, but I hate to generalize. That might not be true.
Just compartmentalize that that clearly.
Yeah. Some people can do that. It's like it didn't happen until the next time there's a Big Mac attack and they want to do so again. I don't know. That was never how I mentally felt, but people are different, right?
Yeah. I don't know how people do that either. Like my stress bleeds over into everything in my life. But I was married to someone who could compartmentalize very well, and it was not great. So
sorry, yeah. I've seen that where I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's that's a whole other rabbit hole, but
people can have like different sides of themselves and different lives.
Completely different. Yeah.
I know companions who have like a fake identity and they build her and she's got a whole, so like nothing about Amy Taylor is a lie. Everything about that I've told you about my life is me. The name Amy Taylor I legally own and that I use for entertainment, of course, but everything else is actually me. But some women choose to do this as like a healer and an actress, and the whole person they build is not real, and it's like a show. And I think for them it helps. They can go do their job, and then they come home to their kids and their husband, and that person is left.
It's
left in the green.
Different person for them.
Yeah, that's how some people cope, and I'm not mad at that if that's what works.
Yeah. Oh, some good comments in the chat. I think some people, I think it's a some people skill rather than a men and women skill. By Merck says I can compartmentalize like a motherfucker. There's a room in my head where stuff goes into, and it's stuck in there until I open that room again. That's not me. My rooms are all open.
I wish I was like that.
Yeah. I'm sure there's plenty of downsides, but it must be nice.
I mean, yeah, and you're right. I shouldn't have said men and women, forgive me. That's not true. You're right. It's some people. Yeah. My grandpa was in war and he barely ever talked about like having to like kill people, right? He had been in the Air Force, and I think people do what they have to survive. And as long as you're not hurting people. Of course, is if you married and you took vows and the other person isn't consenting to everything you're doing, that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you took vows, right? And the only real moral framework is consent. I mean, if somebody's consenting, cool. But if they're not, then you got a problem.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, consent is everything. Like in marriages, not in marriages, just talk about shit, man. Just communicate. Just talk.
Yeah, it can get real weird if you just talk about it. And I know why people don't, because they don't want to get rejected, or they want the benefits of the being with the person, but they know the person won't consent. I get all that. But it's gonna bite you in the ass later on, right? So you might as well. And I know it's hard. Like I know like the kink world, like BDSM, they're really good with consent because they do some real freaky stuff, right? I've done some. Mm-hmm. I'm not a professional dominatrix. There's women much more skilled than me and all that stuff. But they like fully hash out everything they're gonna do because it's so freaky. You kind of have to, right? Because you could really hurt yourself, or others. And so they're very good about like explicit consent. I think they have a lot of knowledge to share with the mainstream world about how you negotiate boundaries, because those folks are very good at it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and just you have to, if you're going to go into something, you want to go in with as much information as you can, and making sure that both parties understand where those boundaries are is really important. And I wish that extended to more than just BDSM and the world of kink. Like it should extend to a lot of things.
Finances, sex, like just how to live. Living with another, you know what's amazingly easy is not living with another person. Like I've lived with people and I've lived alone, and like living alone is so selfishly easy. Like even just living with somebody, like there's a lot of boundary stuff to negotiate and consent about. Like my father says the secret to a happy marriage is a large home. So that you can
have your separate spaces.
Our room and their room. And my parents, they live in a far less expensive city in Northern California, and sometimes they don't see each other all day. He's upstairs and they text each other, and maybe that's why they've made it. Maybe that's why they're on their 55th year, right? Maybe that's the way to do it.
Yeah, that could be the secret. Absolutely. Just have a big home and maybe don't see your partner all the time in the same house.
I don't think anybody ever wanted to be with me 24/7. I've had men madly in love with me, but I'm very good in small doses. I'm exceedingly after a while.
Yeah.
I know. Ask any of my exes.
Hey, everybody's got their things, right? So what are some common misconceptions about sex work that you either encounter frequently or that you would like to dispel?
Oh, yeah, so people think we are stupid, which, like I told you earlier, I'm super smart at like test taking in science and super dumb at like history and geography. So we're not a monolith, and neither is anybody else, but people like to say that we're dumb. They like to say that both were like an evil Jezebel and a tortured victim. So like, dude, pick one. I get both 100 times a day. Like, it's either I'm a predator and living life on easy mode is this term the kids like, as if what I do is easy. If you think it's so easy, you try it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
By the way, most of it's computer work. It's very boring. Or that it's like so horrible I should be saved from it. So like, again, pick one. Is it easy or is it hard? Or is it both, depending upon whether you'd like to be jealous of us or feel pity for us? I've never seen a group of people so simultaneously villainized and also pitied. It's they all think we're all on drugs. I think there's a certain rate of drug use. I don't know that it's any more than the cocaine use in the finance bros here in Manhattan. I'm not sure, but it's not universal. That we're damaged and desperate and et cetera, et cetera. And I would argue we're no more damaged than the rest of society, and we're just trying to survive like everybody else. They like to say that our clients are entitled, abusive, creepy, hurt us. They're desperate. That is no more true than in regular dating. If you're so concerned with, women having to spend time on dates with men they may or may not like, then you should outlaw dating, and maybe you should outlaw marriage, because a lot of unwanted dating and sex is happening to wives too. So I joke, nobody wants to outlaw marriage, but I mean, this thing of trying to save women from bad men, well, it's not just my world that women encounter bad men. How about just dating? I think people refuse to acknowledge that our industry has always been a part of humanity. It's always been the third rail of many marriages. I'm not saying I like that, but I'm saying it always has been the case, and it always will be, no matter how they treat it. It's not going anywhere. Yep. The best thing we can do is reckon with it and make it less harmful, because it's not an island. It is tangentially involved in, your relationships and your marriage. It's not sex workers aren't seeing themselves, right?
Right.
So we could do better by it. And by the way, a lot of animals, the females also trade sex for resources. Have you seen penguins? He has to bring like a little shiny rock or he gets no sex. In Drosophila, the fruit fly, if the male doesn't lick the female with his proboscis, he gets no sex, which I quite like. I think female fruit flies have got it going on. Good job, ladies. So females in many species are negotiating when the male wants sex. It's not just in humans, and why wouldn't they? Even if it's just for kindness and texts or dinner or marriage or kids or whatever, it's not a bad thing. And I think, to me, it's the people who are so voyeuristically creepy about the sex lives of sex workers while they're lying and hiding their own sex lives. To me, those are the people that are sex pests and sort of predatory, not sex workers. I think they're creepy as fuck, frankly.
Yeah.
Typically, I think those who hate sex work the most vehemently are also the ones who are most fascinated by it, right? It's two sides of the same coin. The reason it gets their heart rate up is because they're fascinated by it. And to them, I would say, well, if you'd like to be one, you're welcome to try. And if you find it problematic, as I do too, then why don't you help make it safer and better? Mm-hmm. If you want people to be less in sex work, then what you really care about is the poverty of young women and to some extent men. If you care about poverty, then help us do something about it.
Yeah.
Right. So that is what I'd like to, these misconceptions that it exists for a reason, because young people are often very poor. That's why it exists. The foster care is a major feeder into street-based sex work. Mm-hmm. Kids who age out of the foster system, they're 18 years old, they got no skills, no money, nobody's paying for college, they got nothing to do. They got one thing to trade because they're good looking and young and people want to fuck them. You care about that, then maybe come help with the foster kids. How many kids have you adopted? How many kids are you paying to go to community college so they can get some skills and get other options, or even trade school or anything else? How many of you bought a laptop for so they can do something for you? You're not doing anything for them. And then you're mad that they turn into sex work so they can buy food? I mean, put your money where your mouth is if you care about minimizing sex work. Do something.
Yeah. Boy, people hate those kinds of questions though. Start asking those back whenever they're talking to you about something. They hate it. Cuz it hits at the heart of what they're like not wanting to consider, what they're not wanting to think about. It really kind of gets to, oh, well, I want that surface. I want the surface level conversation. I don't want to go any deeper.
Yeah, well, I mean, poverty takes away all dignity. When people are poor, when somebody can't buy food, you're not going to tell them, oh, you shouldn't, get on a pole and dance at this club or do a blowjob in the back room for extra money. Like, when somebody's hungry, they don't give a shit about what you're telling them about what they should do. Yep. So, yeah, poverty is hard to look at. It's hard because you got to look at your own privilege and what you're doing to help or not help. But if you really care, then yeah. I mean,
Yep.
do something to help the poor.
Absolutely. Bite Mark says they want to judge you and be better than you, but also like the idea that they could save you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time I've heard that.
Can
Yeah.
you?
I mean, we have sex workers have had clients who want to save us and retire us, and then they want to continue to see sex workers, which
Yes.
don't get me started. Yeah. Well, there's a funny thing where especially men, when they start to fall in love with a woman, they think she's too good for all things sex. She goes from, and much psychological research has been written about what's called the Madonna whore complex. It's in academia, you can read about it, but they think there are women who are the saint. It's the mother of their children, their wife, their mom, their sister, and then there's the whores that are fun, but they don't care if they live or die.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they're kind of okay with them dying in a ditch because they're bad women anyway, right? Just let me fuck them a few times first, and then they can die. And so this compartmentalization, once a man cares about you, you shift from being whore to Madonna, and he doesn't want you fucking anymore, right? He wants to cover you up and save you, but then he's still going to go have fun with the other whores, right? So yeah, this for sure, that's true. I mean, this again, people can only count to two. What did I say earlier?
Yep. That's come up time and time again.
It's like binary is as far as people can go in their minds. It's only this or that, and that's all.
Yep, absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about any particular challenges you have personally faced in balancing your mental health and your career in sex work?
Sure. It's a lot at times. I about it was about 12 years ago, I refused to work for a pimp. There's a guy named David Elms who owns a site called theeroticreview.com. And he is effectively an internet pimp. He wanted you to sell sex, which I refused to do because it's illegal, and then get your clients to write reviews of said sex for money. And then he charged money to join the site and read those reviews under the guise that if you had all these good reviews, people would help you, kind of like a paid Yelp for hookers. And he bothered me when I was first on the internet 15 years ago, saying you should do this, sell sex, and get your customers to write reviews, and I'll charge for them, and you'll make more, and I'll make more, and effectively a pimp, right? And I would laughed and said, "You can go to hell." And that was probably not a good thing to say to somebody like that, because I didn't realize he was a drug using, gun toting. He got convicted of rape, and he was a real bad guy. And in my youth and bravado, I didn't know who I was messing with. I just knew that I wasn't going to sell sex for a pimp. That's crazy. No. But he got madder and madder as I became successful. I guess year after, he hated me more and more. I didn't know that. I had to put him in prison. He outed me to everybody I know. I lost my boyfriend. I lost my job. My family didn't talk to me for 3 years. I miscarried my 17-year-old son. I had quit and didn't want to tell the internet. Still ran my pay site for the income it provided. I wasn't seeing anybody. And this boyfriend and I was an accidental pregnancy. We were going to try to make it work. I was getting ready to move to Seattle with this guy. And then David Elms did this to me, outed me to the world. Oh. And I miscarried. And I hope I meet my son someday, but I lost my chance at being a mom. And then I sued him. And when I won, he then tried to kill me. And that year, it would have been 2011, I think. I'd have to look, might be 2010. I'd have to look back on exactly what year it was. But that year, I was very dark mental health wise.
Yeah.
Not having my family around. They circled back and came back, and I'm grateful for that. My sister was terrified for herself and her husband and her own kids. And she asked, this is an actual rapist, crackhead, gun collecting pimp who's after us. Did you ever think that what you do could touch us? Mm-hmm. And the truth is I hadn't. In my youth and stupidity, I had not thought that my choices could perhaps hurt my family. I wanted to not have them ever know. And I wanted to, I guess, have my cake and eat it too, and retire with a cute boy, get married, just bury it all and get away with it all. Well, ain't that a great plan, right? Turned out it didn't work out. Genius. Like I said, some things I'm very dumb. But then I had to put him in prison. He went to prison for a bunch of years. He's out now. He's changed his name. The victim services tells me where he is, but that year was very bad. And sometimes late at night I wake up and I'm back there a decade ago. I guess that would be PTSD, right? A couple therapists have said I probably qualify for that. I don't take any medication, but I got beta blockers on standby if I ever want to prop a propranolol to calm down. It's sometimes hard, but as every year that goes by that it's further in the past, I feel safer, and he hasn't come and killed me yet. So far so good.
Yeah.
On the positive side, I'm independent, free. I have no boss. I have no husband. I have very little stress. I have time to sleep and exercise, and I have enough money to eat healthy. So in some ways, I have less stress than the average person. And then in the other negatives, like I told you about earlier, the societal things, stigma, shame, having to be somewhat closeted in general, a little still, and then the way that people act insane when they find out. It's a mixed bag. Some parts are terrifying, and some parts are actually kind of awesome. Weird, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's good and bad. But yeah, I mean that's a lot. That's a lot to go through and to have kind of hanging over you.
Yeah, those years were the darkest. Yeah, I mean that's the truth of it, is that I just didn't. I think because I was so privileged and my sorority sister was the only person I had known who did it, I didn't really believe that people like that were in it. That was a thing. I was like, oh, that's just a trope. And nope. Unfortunately, there's some real bad people in it.
Yeah.
And I should have just ignored his emails, I guess. I don't know. I just didn't. I was very naive. I don't come from the streets. I had never met anybody like that. I was vastly overconfident that most people were at least decent. And it was a real eye-opener to see that there are literally predators out there. And luckily, they're very few and far between. Most human beings are not like that.
Yeah.
Most people are reasonable. But it changed me. I think I was an eye-opener to learn that evil exists. I wish I didn't know, right?
Yeah. I mean, none of that's your fault. Like none of that is on you. There's no, I should have done this differently. That's on that person. That's on that individual. That's not, it sucks. I'm sorry you went through all of that.
Thank you. Thanks for saying that. The problem in sex work is that there's young people, there's a lot of money to be made. They're often very naive. And so there are predators who want to manage them and make money off them. It's always been that way, and it always will be. I maintain that I think if it were a legitimized industry, people that bad who are raping people and buying fully automatic weapons and doing crack would be run out of the business, because there'd be normal people running it and it would be competitive.
Yeah.
Because better people would be willing to enter it. I mean, but I don't know, because strip club owners are still often pretty bad people too. Maybe not quite that bad, but if you talk to any exotic dancers, the clubs are a pretty predatory environment too. If they don't pay everybody out, the DJ and the bouncer and this guy and that guy, a lot of the girls dance all night and go home with barely anything because everybody's just leeching off them.
Yeah.
And that world is basically legitimate, but it's still pretty shady. So I don't have any good solutions, but there are people smarter than me working toward better solutions. And I do think that some legitimacy would run people like David Elms out of it without. Yeah. But thank God for the Phoenix Police Major Offenders Unit. They got him, and they are the only reason that I'm alive.
Amazing.
And I owe my life to them.
Yeah, that's amazing. When things like that work, it's great.
I don't know that they cared about me. I think maybe it's just bad press when pretty girls get killed, or maybe they just wanted him, and I don't know. It was maybe just luck.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. You've talked a little bit about kind of the criticism and judgment that you've faced, and losing contact with people and having to move and all this. How do you handle that kind of judgment from people who just don't understand or respect what you do? How do you handle
that? Well, if they have questions, I'm happy to talk to them or point them into, there's lots of books and YouTube channels and podcasts and things now where people are speaking about their experience. So I'm happy to, if they want to watch or listen, maybe I'll send them a link to this. I hope they won't use my bad experience as a reason to say, see, we should crack down on it harder, because
Right.
that doesn't work, people. You're just going to create more David Elms, dummies. But I'm happy to correct some of their misinformed views. I wish they knew that I know hundreds and hundreds of retired companions who are just fine. They're mothers and wives and businesswomen and lawyers, doctor even. I know them. And then if they just want to hate me, then I kind of am done. My life's too short.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of respect my profession, I just want them to respect my humanity. I think it's a pretty far stretch for me to ask them to love sex work. At this point, I'm just asking people to acknowledge that we could mitigate the harm being done to the young and the poor. I'm not yet trying to ask them to respect it. I don't think that'd be great, but baby steps.
Yeah. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they could just acknowledge humanity, and I mean, if you think young, poor people should just die, then I don't know how to talk to you. But I believe that most people don't think that. I think we just disagree on how we get there. I think everybody agrees that we should have proper steps for if people want out of sex work, if people want sex work to be less harmful to them. I think we all agree on that. We just disagree on the mechanics of how to get there. Yeah. And so that means we can get there if we all agree on the basics. So I am hopeful. And there's some great legislators, at least in California. There's a guy from San Jose who's doing great things in the space of trying to reduce harm. And some people who acknowledge that the industry is, with all of its problems, does exist, can be less harmful to the people that are in it, because 99% of people that are in sex work don't do it for very long, and they're going to go on to do other things, and they should have a life, right? They should be able to live, to become mothers and wives and businesswomen, and do, because they want to, and they do. Right. They don't die from it, right?
Right.
So some people are doing great things, and doubling down like some states are doing is not going to work.
Yeah. So. That's a Texas dig for sure.
I mean, I'm sorry.
No, look.
I'm sorry.
I agree, okay?
Texas is leading the front on this end demand idiocy where they think they can criminalize the client side of it, which is nonsense. That doesn't work anywhere. All you do when you do that is drive clients to be more fearful of things like screening and background checks. And then when the young and poor who don't have other options, they start having to compromise on the risks they'll take. They'll take more and more risks to try to buy food, because again, when somebody is starving and doesn't have a roof over their head, the bar is very low for what they'll tolerate, because the alternative is starvation and homelessness.
Yep.
So criminalizing their clients isn't going to stop them. They're just going to take more risks so that they can buy food and shelter. Yep. So what they've done in Texas has not worked at all. All it's done is created more of these bars where you go first into the bar, and then if you get access to the back room, you see what's really going on in them. There's a zillion of them in Texas. And they're currently pretending like it's all cleaned up. It's not.
Yeah, like there's no shock. There's no shock in that. Texas is, I think we all agree, Texas is not the best.
The optics, I guess they can produce data that says they're succeeding, but it's all a lie.
Yeah. I mean, you can
there's no good
data however you want.
Underground industries, the data you can light that data on fire, because when it's an underground industry, you have no idea what you're talking about ever, because no one
knows you. Yep.
But when they quote bullshit.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. I'm voting as hard as I can. Yeah. Like everybody who's here, I know a lot of folks are in Texas. Somehow I attract people in Texas to this community. But yeah, like we're all voting as hard as we can. We just got to get everybody else to vote too.
I love Texas. My ancestors are from North Dallas. My fifth great grandmother was a frontierswoman at Dallas. I mean, I love Texans, and I love Texas, and I love how much they love America. But look, I mean, the Democrats are centrist by almost all the world's standards. So at least certainly the developed world. And so this theocracy, Christo-fascist stuff is nonsense. It doesn't work. It never has. We've already tried it. It failed before. It's going to fail again if we're going to try it again for some reason. There's no theocracy on earth that has ever succeeded.
Yeah.
Was it Afghanistan, Yemen, Iran? Like, you want to live like that? Cool.
Go there and leave us
Yeah,
here.
I mean, I mean, I was proud of France today. They rejected fascism today. I don't know if you saw the news.
I did not see the news.
France voted to keep liberal democracy, at least for
All
now.
right.
I mean, rights are never kept. They're always fought for because there's always the other side pushing back to take them away again. It can go backwards, right? Iran in the 70s had women doctors and lawyers, and look at it now. So it can always go backwards.
Yep,
so,
that's true.
Vote, friends. Please vote.
Vote. We were talking about this earlier. Like, there are more Democrats in Texas than there are Republicans at this point. If everyone would actually just go fucking vote, it would make a huge difference. But you're all sitting here thinking, this is a red state, my vote doesn't count. It could, if we would all go vote. It could count.
Yeah, I've lived in New York and California, and they always go left, although we're still going to vote because we're not so sure even. They're probably going to vote blue, but you guys, yeah, you're the one that could go either way, so come on.
Yeah, it really
like, yeah. Young people, your vote matters.
Yeah, for sure. I want to take a second because D-Parks, I see these subs in here. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support. And then just these comments, y'all are making my heart happy because y'all are like, these comments, this podcast is something we all need. And these are just great. I agree. The space Mama creates and the guests she invites are always so educational and safe to me. Y'all are going to make me cry. Thank you so much. I'm appreciated by a lot of, y'all, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I'm glad that you're here. And I'm glad that you enjoy this stuff because I enjoy having these conversations and I always think they're a lot of fun. So thank you for being here. Thank you for participating. Keep talking in the chat. I am watching. So if you have more questions, feel free to put them in there. But thank you. I wanted to pause and just say thank you because I see all that happening right now and I appreciate it so much. So is there anything you do now in terms of self-care or other purposeful exercises or activities to maintain your mental health now?
Yeah, I get off my phone. Like, I go like there's the baby. Hi. And your fans sound so loving and thanks for your kindness. Thanks for not filling the chat of hate. You sound like you have such a nice tribe. Like, this is really lovely what you're building.
Yeah, I really love this. I really do love this community, y'all, like so much.
Thank you for not selling rage. I'm disappointed that some of the podcasts that are selling rage, I mean, there's only one thing that sells better than sex, and it's rage. And some of them doing that, you talk about people who will do anything for money. I mean, I don't think it's helpful. I think it's harmful, and I'm ashamed of money. And I think building something in a more sustained, positive way that helps people is so important and so good because you could go lowbrow and sell rage, and it's gross. And I'd like to see that stuff go away. It probably won't, but I think it's the smarmiest. So, personal opinions aside about rage baiting, speaking of mental health, I get off my phone because the apps now, I open them up and some of them are so ragey. Just people fighting about stuff I don't even know what they're talking about, and they're so mad. Like the X thing, he must have changed the algorithm because now I just get people fighting about stuff that I've never even heard of.
Yeah.
They're threatening each other and I'm like, I don't know what this is. So I post some picture and say hi to the world and then I close it. Mm-hmm. I get tech neck and I hate it. So I get off my phone. I go hang out in the park with my dog and look at him yell at squirrels and look at crazy New Yorkers. I travel to go back west to see my family or friends. Or I might go on a date, might get laid, might not. Big fan of doing it by myself too. That's fine too. Nobody does it like I do.
Good for
you. Every girl needs a vibrator.
Amen.
I try to exercise, but I don't obsess about it. Yoga for sure. Get the cricks out and stretches. I do try to get sleep. I'm not a person who can sleep 4 or 5 hours a night. God love people who can, but I'm an 8 hours a night girl. Sometimes 9. Wish I wasn't, but I don't feel good if I don't sleep. Mm-hmm. And then I make sure to keep my friendships tight. I'm lucky to have great neighbors, many of whom love me, including all my flaws and the things I've done. And I'm lucky for that. And so we do like terrace dinners when the weather's nice and indoor spa stuff when the weather's cold. It's sunny here right now and hot. So we're all enjoying that because 6 months a year it sucks here. And so kind of all the normal things, but for sure, getting away from my phone.
Yeah.
Um, I know how Gen X and old that sounds, but when I'm on the phone a lot, I feel bad.
Hmm.
I guess, I don't know. Maybe the young are more wired for it, but I try to take a tech detox when I can. That for sure helps my mental health.
Yeah. I've got all the timers set on my phone. It's like you can only spend this much time a day on this app and then it's going to close for you. I need to go in and change. Yeah, oh yeah, yes. You go into your settings on your phone and you say like, "Okay, TikTok, I'm going to only allow myself to spend an hour." The app will literally close when the hour is up and it won't let you open. Of course, you can override it if you really wanted to, but it will close. And it
Does
gives
it
you like,
help?
you got 10 minutes left, you got 5 minutes left. It gives you little warnings and then it'll
I
close. And
never
then
felt older and less cool. I did not know that was a thing.
yeah, you can set it where then you can't access. Of course, you can go on your browser. Like there's ways around it and stuff. Um, but I just decided yesterday, and I haven't done it yet. I need to move the black and white setting on my phone up an hour. I have it set to midnight. I need to set it to where it goes black and white at 11 because those dopamine hits, they program them in, and if it's in full color, you're gonna stay in there longer. So I got to change that one too. But
That's true that if it's black and white, it's less
yes,
interesting.
yep.
Wow.
Yeah, if it's black and white because your brain is not picking up all those colors and so you're not as interested in continuing to scroll and look at the different videos and read the different memes and stuff. It's not as interesting if it's in black and white. So you can set your phone to automatically go at whatever time you want into that black and white mode and then you could be in the middle of doing something and it'll just be like, "All right, it's black and white time."
I'm so sorry to your fans who probably knew this. I didn't. Oh, your
Oh
baby.
no, it's all good.
Dude, we're just like lab rats. Like
Yes.
that's
Yes.
embarrassing.
Yeah.
I
Well,
know. So
yeah,
I paint my nails
absolutely.
red because I was in a business of trying to be attractive to men, and men like red nails.
Yes.
And I always do my toes red. I just got them done with my sister day before yesterday, and she and I were in the grocery store, and some guy comes down the aisle to her. She's got pretty feet, I guess, and he was like, "Hi, ma'am, you've got really pretty feet." And she was like, "Okay, thanks, bye." And then we go down the other aisle and he comes and finds her again. And he's like, "I'm sorry, ma'am. Like, would it be okay if I just took a picture of them?" She's like, "No."
No,
And
no thanks. No thanks.
luckily, he was meek and polite and left. We didn't have a problem. But like red, yeah, it's a thing, right?
Yeah,
Like we're all just like this with color. That's embarrassing that we're that predictable.
it is. It is. But you got to use the technology to your advantage. There's all kinds of digital well-being things you can do. But getting away from your phone is definitely one. Definitely a good idea as much as you can, for sure.
Yeah, the worst decisions I've ever made, and the worst I've treated my own mental health was when I was lonely and upset. So I do try to call my therapist or someone who loves me without always putting it off on my loved ones because I know they don't have infinite time.
Hmm.
Um, I try because I live alone. I try to make sure I don't make big bad decisions when I'm lonely and upset because those are
Yeah.
never good decisions,
Yep.
right? I'll either do something harmful or stupid and I have. So I try when I'm alone and not in a good place mentally to reach out either to a professional or a friend or family.
Yeah.
We need each other, right? We need each other.
Absolutely. 100%. All right, I'm gonna catch up on the chat here. Phones for us as phones nowadays are designed to keep you coming back to it instead of letting you be alone with your thoughts. And even while doom scrolling, I can actively feel how awful it is for me, but it's hard to stop after being conditioned to be chained to it. Yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's designed that way. They literally design it to keep you in the app more often. Like that's their goal is to keep you there.
Ugh,
Yeah.
we're
And
just
then
being farmed.
yeah, we are. We are 100%. Frost also says, "I don't have any questions for our lovely guests, but I just want to say I love how engaging and passionate they are. I literally paused my game and stuff to actively and attentively listen today." That's great. That's awesome. I
Thank
love
you.
it. And Bite Mark says, I have to resist the urge at night every time I wake up for any reason to pick up my phone. I'm literally trying to go to sleep and my brain's like, what's happening on the internet right now?" Yeah. Yes.
Same. Same.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm so glad it's not just me. I
No,
feel
it's
better
not just
already.
you. No, not at all. That's something. I mean, we all struggle with that, right? For sure. All right, we're down to the last couple of questions. So if anyone does have any more questions for Amy, please feel free to pop those into the chat and we will get to them. But Amy, what is your favorite life hack?
Oh gosh. I think to get comfortable with who you really are, because that's hard. We all want to be better or different at times. But the secret is, I'm 47 now. I'll be 48 at the end of the year. The secret, especially as you get a little older, you realize that everybody's got their nonsense and everybody's got regrets and wishes and positive things too, and successes, and the amount of mental energy and stress you'll save and even physical pain you'll reduce via the reduction in stress is pretty wild when you try, and I still fail at this, to struggle less with your internal self and just be who you are. Which is, it's a battle you never sort of win, but you can continue to try to make peace with who you are. And then when you radiate authenticity, it opens up a door for other people to trust and be authentic too. And you'll find they share their stuff more with you because you actually seem more human, flaws and all, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of was forced upon me to get comfortable with my nonsense, even as I tried to improve myself. But I think that's been a life hack to just be who I am instead of constantly wish I was something else.
Yeah. I feel like it takes a lot of energy also to pretend to be something that you're not and to try to be something that you're not. And imagine if you didn't have to do that, if you didn't put that on yourself to be someone else.
Yeah, particularly if it's not possible, right? I mean, and no one's saying you don't try to improve yourself. I get on the old treadmill. Nobody's saying you don't brush your teeth and things that are good improvements. You don't want to just leave those go. But I think, when we compare ourselves to others, when we ruminate so much on our regrets in the past or anxiously ruminate on the future that has not arrived yet, and what could go wrong and what might go wrong, you're not being you. You're not being yourself. And, it's kind of morbid, but it's also kind of freeing. We're all going to be dead in a few decades. So you might as well just be yourself and enjoy it. Because all matters. It also sort of all doesn't matter. I'm sort of joking, but it behooves you to just try to be okay with it and enjoy it, because this too shall pass, as they say, right? All of this is temporary. We don't know what the next adventure is, but I hope if I ever meet God or whatever it is, the ether, that she laughs at us and about all of our nonsense.
All the things we cared about that just did not matter.
I've known a couple people who've gotten close to death and they said it's all love, and a lot of what we worry about is simply not real. It's just ego from this existence. And I sure hope that's close to the truth. Mm-hmm. I'll let you know if I get there first.
Yeah. All right, I'll read a couple more comments from the chat. I want to say thank you so much for being here. I've learned some and had some fun. Also, everyone vote, please. And that's from Bitemark. Yeah, for sure. D Park says a lot of us are loners, and being alone and lonely begs for depression, among other things. You are not wrong. And just like I said, you can have these days where you need to focus on IRL stuff. And when you need to reconnect with some people, we're here for you. So just keep that in mind. And I know you know that. I know you're already in there. So it's all good. And then Frost says, hi, growing up gay in Texas felt the same way. So I 100% understand. Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to go to our magic moment of the stream. I should have gotten this out earlier, but I didn't. That's okay. If you had a magic wand and you could wave this magic wand and eliminate one common opinion or misconception or theory about mental health, mental illness, disabilities, what would it be?
If I had, that's a solid, I love your magic wand with the star. I'd like to make people sort of live and let live. I'd like people to be happy that it's not a monolith, that we are mentally different, and that's actually beautiful, not scary or harmful or to be managed. Judging others, trying to control others, shoving one's own standards off upon others for whom things might be different is just sort of childish and ridiculous, and it's just ego driven. I think our mental states differ every bit as much as our physical states, and it's really dumb that we can't just be okay with Mother Nature's beautiful diversity that she created. Like, call it Mother Nature, God, whatever, I don't care, whatever you want to call it. She makes all this possibility, and we should be embracing it because it's so interesting and beautiful. So if I had a magic wand, I would make people love diversity and appreciate it and revel in it and enjoy it instead of judging it and being afraid of it.
Amen. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love
Maybe
that.
we'll get
One
there.
day.
Maybe
We'll get
we'll.
there one day.
Yeah,
All right.
like you ever see like the way your pets like greet something they don't know? They kind of sniff at it and look at it, and then if they're not into it, like you put a carrot in front of a cat, they just kind of turn around. Okay, fine. That's
Whatever.
not for
Yeah.
me. They don't try to mother it, like
Yeah.
usually. I would like us to be a little more like that.
Yeah.
Live and let live, right? People.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to open it
And
up
vote.
to you, and if there's anything that we didn't talk about that you want to talk about, feel free to throw anything out there, or any resources or recommendations that you want to throw out there. I'll just give the floor to you for a little bit.
Oh, thanks. I mean, not much. Thank you for all your kindness, all you guys, girls, guys, people. Thank you for it's nice, and I hope to talk with you guys in the next one. I'll log in and be one of the people in the comments too. But if you are interested and care about sex workers, the big outreach group is Sex Workers Outreach Projects. That's SWOP, SWAP, and there are SWAP chapters in every city in America. You can get involved, or if you're curious, you can find out how you can be a better ally. It is intimately tied in with LGBTQ issues. Intimately tied in with issues of houselessness and migrant issues. It's intersectional with a lot of otherwise marginalized populations. So if you care about marginalized and stigmatized people, then you probably also care about sex work. So SWAP is a great resource, and they can guide you in any way you might be curious or like to get involved. And then if you want to keep up with my dumb rants and modeling and whatever I do, I'm Amy Taylor NYC on almost all the socials. So feel free to say hi. No big deal if you don't want to. But I would just thank you for your kindness, and I hope you guys are taking that out into the world, because I feel like in these days that's really needed. I think it's a cliche, but I really think love has to win. It has to. And so if you do that, then it can't be all bad, right, folks?
Yeah. Well, I posted all your socials and your website one more time for everybody, and also a link. There's a link to swapusa.org, and I'm sure there's international links on that website as well. So if you're looking for something that's not USA, that's just what pops up because that's where I am. So feel free to pop in there. Well, Amy, thank you so very much for joining us today. This has been a really lovely conversation, and I've had such a blast.
Thank you for your kindness. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, chat, let me disconnect with Amy offline, and I will be right back. Stick around. y'all, the amount of appreciation and love that I have for y'all is vast and wide, and I appreciate you. And thank you for being so wonderful. I really do love y'all. Like, I love this community. Y'all were so good, just so good, and I appreciate you. And our guest tonight was very appreciative of your normal spirit, y'all being yourselves. She was like, that was great. So thank you for being you, and I appreciate you very, very much. And I wish that I could stick around tonight and play a game or something, but I unfortunately have some other things to do, because I still haven't made the video for the intro and outro for the podcast that releases in 7 hours. I've recorded the intro and outro. I just haven't done the video editing. I've done the audio processing. I haven't done the video editing, so I have to do all of that. Go team not being a dick. Absolutely. Like, listen, I know that she has had some bad experiences on some shows, and she reached out to me and she was like, I don't want to have a bad experience. You don't seem like you would be the kind of person to cause something like that, but how do you handle? And I was like, first of all, community is great. Like, I don't think that's going to be a problem. If we get trolls, we'll handle it. And whenever we were disconnecting, she was just like, that was great. That was wonderful. So, and that's all on you guys. And I appreciate y'all being great and y'all making this a good space to have conversations that matter and that are deeper than just like, a 10-minute podcast or something. Was there an opportunity for me to be a dick? Fuck, I missed it. I mean, now's your opportunity, Growling, right now. And that's the other thing that is the other thing. Tyrion, you got a hair in my nose somehow. That is the other thing that I told her. I was like, listen, we get trolls, we get inappropriate comments almost never during Mental Health Monday. And she was like, really? That's they just don't bother you with that? It's like, no, I can't remember the last time we had an actual troll during a Mental Health Monday. And I mean, 90% of the comments on this, if y'all aren't being funny about something, are appropriate, on topic, on brand, that kind of thing. So I was very confident in bringing this conversation when she reached out to me to be on the show. And I'm glad that I was right. I was in the Arby's line for 30 minutes and found out they only take cash, and Taco Bell for 45 minutes. This is not fast food. These are not definitions of fast food. Whole time I was watching from drive-through lines. That is okay. I appreciate you hanging in there through drive-through lines, man. That's awesome. I appreciate that. As long as you were being safe and stuff. Reminds me I haven't checked in on one of our former trolls lately. Better do that. I think I know which one you're talking about. The Planned Parenthood one. I'm guessing. Is that the one you're talking about? But yes, that was a wonderful conversation. I had a lot of fun. I think that's going to make some good connections for some conversations down the line as well. So that will be good. What the fuck? What are we what the fucking? So yes, I will be back on Wednesday at my normal time. Did you just say Planned Parenthood from a Texas IP? I did. Yeah. Oh my gosh. We were talking about Texas before we started recording. We were talking about Texas, and she's in New York. She lived in LA also. So it's like California and New York, kind of very different from Texas. And she said, I almost moved to Texas for a guy. And I'm like, be glad you didn't. And then we were talking about some of the, women's rights being taken away and trans rights being taken away, and just advocating for children with disabilities is harder here than it is in other places, and all this stuff. And she's like, yeah, but I feel like there are some good pockets in Texas. Yeah, yes, there are some good pockets in Texas. Absolutely. But it's not everywhere. And those pockets, the expanse of Texas, that is not a good pocket, is large. Texas and California are like opposites of each other and both suck because they're so extreme. We did talk about that also. Yeah. Like it's nowhere's going to be perfect, okay? There are better places than this. For sure. Absolutely. Okay, I will be back Wednesday, 8:30 Central. I'm going to go edit this intro. What's the topic tomorrow? I think tomorrow's the one with Tamara Fox, if y'all remember that conversation. On trauma, trauma, grief, and pivoting after trauma and grief incidents. So it was a really good conversation. I love editing these like 6 months later, because then I'm like, what was this? Oh yeah, that was such a fun one. That was such a good one. And then I get to relive it all over again. So I'm kind of little glad that I do these like 6 months apart. Not super glad, but a little glad that I do them like 6 months. I had the conversation, 6 months later, I'm editing the podcast. It's kind of fun. It's kind of neat. And I am going to add YouTube back. I think I got, let's see how many episodes I have for, sir. Let's see how many episodes I have that I could put up on YouTube. It's getting there. It's getting to be quite a few, actually. It's a whole page. So this was videos. There's 3 on this page that were video and edited. 4, 5, 6, 7. Probably not that one. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I've got 17. This will make 18 ready. Maybe I'll wait for 20. Maybe I'll wait to have 20 ready, and then I can just schedule them. I'm going to go do less power-intensive stuff, I hope. Thanks for the stream, as always. Bite Mark, thank you so much for being here, even through your power struggles. I appreciate you very, very much. That heart looks weird, but my thumb is weird, so whatever. Good luck with your power. I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much, and I love you, and have a good night. So yeah, if I do a couple more, then I'll have a nice round 20. Do I need a round 20? No. But it might be what I do. All right, y'all. Have a good rest of your evening. Again, thank you. I love you. Good night.